Hi everyone, this is Matt from DrawingTutorialsOnline.com. I've got another sample clip for you from our new course titled The 60-Minute Figure. Now, this part 2 sample is all about drawing the torso peanut shape. But you're probably saying to yourself, wait a second, didn't you just show that to us in the first sample clip of the new course? Yes, that was from life. But what we're going to show you now in this one is how to draw the torso peanut shape, a whole bunch of them in all different views from your memory in a really loose, flowy way. This is what you should be doing in your sketchbook. So without further ado and enough talking on my part, let me show you how I do this. Welcome to part 2, chapter 1 of the 60-minute figure drawing. Basically what we're going to do here in this chapter 1 is draw a bunch of these torso peanut shapes. Now, what is the point of this part 2? It's just to get you to loosen up with this torso peanut shape, to take the mystery out of it, and to do this in more of a repetitive way so it's just easier for you. So right away, we've got a back view, we've got the peanut shape, we look for the sacrum, we've got part of the pelvis, the iliac crest, then we get in the bottom of the rib cage. You know, we're not being so literal, we're not drawing the two floating ribs in the back, we're just trying to get the basic shape of the rib cage. This is for a much looser way of sketching almost. We've got the spine in there, then we can kind of adjust the contour with some ins and outs. Very simple back view, okay? I'm using, once again, my Strathmore 400 paper, 18 by 24 pad. It's the recycled paper. It's a green pad. I'm using my Colorase pencil. The pencil is slightly dull. You see now I'm getting in a little bit of the scapula. On the other side, a little bit of the scapula. How long did that take? Barely any time at all. This is what you need to be doing in your sketchbook. Let's get in some round form lines. All right. Now, I'm just letting these flow out of me. Okay, I'm just trying, I'm not doing any crazy foreshortened views for you right now. We'll save that. We'll definitely save that, and we will address that. But right now, let's just kind of keep it simple. So we have our peanut-shaped classic with the rib cage, and then the iliac crest of the pelvis. Now we adjust the contour to make it look more human. Okay, so sometimes the stomach will stick out a little bit more. Sometimes it will stick out a lot more. A little bit of the back view. This is more of a pure profile. Touch on the leg. Put in the navel in between the bottom of the sternum. Sternum is the center line of your rib cage. Form lines, it's always important to do these form lines that wrap around. They will loosen you up. This is just about making this loose and less intimidating. You know, the first drawings were somewhat loose as well, but this is really fast and loose. And it's more about, in this chapter 1 of part 2, quickness, okay, and taking the mystery out of it. So start with the top. Now you're going to have a certain way that your hand likes to draw. The curve around, the initial curve around. So I like to draw from the right to the left. Now we have our butt, center line, sacrum. We have to fix that rib cage. Back view, once again, it's so important to get that spine in. Let's just make it so it's not so perfectly round. Butt, bottom of the butt. Now, for me personally, my natural tendency is to draw a female first. Just utilize the things that we've spoken about, that men have wider shoulders, men have skinnier, more square hips than women. And then you can do this for a guy. We're going to show you this with a guy too in the next chapter. I believe it's chapter number 3, because in the next chapter, we're going to be drawing the peanut shape from life. and you'll see how it's different. But the same rules apply. Square hips for a guy. Everybody has their one thing that they like to draw and what they draw over and over again, whether it's a comic character, an animal, whatever it is. For me, it's the female form. That's what I like to draw best. That's what I consider myself an expert at drawing. So I always kind of go there first. So different view now, a little bit more 3/4. Got the bottom of the rib cage, which is called the costal margin. That is the sternum. There's our first rib, clavicles, a little bit more level on a female, navel, pubic bone. Now we can just get in a little bit of a contour with the hip. That one's pretty much done. Wrap in and around, inguinal ligament, bottom of the peanut. External oblique. Very fun. Let's squeeze in another one before we slide our pad. See, I start from that way and I wrap around. That's a very natural motion. Doesn't have to be that motion. Now, what I'm drawing right there, I pull from drawing from life. You see patterns in the way bodies look. And so you can make, there's our 2 dimples for the sacrum. Repetition, our spine, rib cage, scapula, form lines. There's no right and wrong way to do this. You can not do the form lines. You can do the form lines. You can add more legs. You can add a little bit of the shoulders, but I'm just trying to keep it simple. Remember, one of the most important things that I want to do for you here is I want you to get results. Okay, I don't want to show you things for the sake of showing things. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Like, in the past, I was very big on the angles, and I still am big on the angles. As a matter of fact, I'm going to redo that whole figure drawing a layered approach and redo all of the videos. I'm actually going to do it this summer. And so I'm going to go over the angles because I really feel that they're important. But sometimes when you do the angles, it's just another step because you have to draw on top of the angles to do this sort of line. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you here in this new course is to cut right to the chase and to do the organic line right away. But the angles is there primarily to help you to get a likeness. Now that's more of a profile back view. So we're going to see a little bit more of the back of the rib cage, a little bit more of the center of the butt. But you can see how we have those lines that wrap around. Bottom of the rib cage gives the peanut its round 3-dimension. The top of the pelvis also gives the peanut torso shape its dimension as well. So this is what you should be doing in your sketchbook because this is where you want to start your 60-minute figure drawing. It's easiest to start it this way. Now, it's even easier when you do the opposite C's for the legs, but we just want to go step by step here. And you could make these as tilted as you want. You can make them very still. You can give them lots of motion. You can be more creative than what I'm being right now. It's totally up to you. It's totally up to the individual. There's looking down at the peanut. There's looking up at the peanut torso. But again, I wanted to do repetition over and over and over again. The same mistakes. Hopefully they're not the same mistakes. Same techniques. Wrap around. Show that it's a round body and not a flat body. We could do even more wraparound stuff. No doubt we can do more. Okay, let's slide that over. By now, your pencil should be getting dull. Mine is very dull, and it's better to have a halfway dull pencil, not an all the way dull pencil, a halfway dull pencil. Because when your pencil is just too sharp, it's kind of like drawing with a mechanical pencil. Your line's too skinny. You kind of want to have your line have a little bit of thickness to it. Now, I was actually looking this morning at a drawing that I have in a frame of drawing on newsprint with more of like a China marker, and that's even better for this type of technique. But I just want to stay consistent with the materials that I'm using. This one has a little bit of a forward bend to the rib cage. Right away, we throw in the inguinal ligament, wrap around the pelvis, bottom of the rib cage, hole for the first rib. We can sync up the rib cage now to the first rib. We should be getting in that sternum, collarbone, sternum, navel, pubic bone. So that just wraps around the lay of the land. Crunch of the rib cage, crunch of the pelvis, bottom of the peanut. You got to look through the front of the upper legs to see where the bottom of the butt is. Wrap around, show the volume, be very sketchy and very loose. You can actually even draw a whole bunch of S-curves on this piece of paper, long S-curves. You can also draw a whole, there's our little side of the pelvis, which we're going to talk much more about in the rough skeleton part. You can draw little circles in between each one of these. Also, try your very best at home to keep your pencil on the paper for as long as possible. I understand you can't keep it on the paper for the entire time. That's not the point. But, a 10-second clip where you can keep your pencil on the page, yes, try that. You're going to be so much more fluid if you keep your pencil on the page. What view is this now? Recently, I went to Las Vegas and I saw a whole bunch of Richard McDonald sculptures. And in the area where there's a whole bunch of Richard McDonald figurative sculptures, there's tons of video of him talking. And what he says is he doesn't force the sculpture. He doesn't force the pose. It kind of just flows out of him and it kind of just happens. I thought that was the neatest thing. Listening to another artist say that, because sometimes I just let these flow out of me as well. Of course, you can take the approach where you're going to say, you know what? I am going to do a 3/4 back view, and you can do that. But it's fun also just to let it happen and don't force it. Wrap that around. Now we can make this area a little bit more of a box. Of course, we haven't spoken about surface planes and a lot of the traditional things that we've spoken about in figure drawing, a layered approach. But I don't want to get sidetracked. Remember, this is about results, and I just want to get down to the heart of being able to draw the torso like this in a very, very simple way. Let's do a couple more. Make no mistake about it, square hips are very guy-ish. There's one gal that comes to my studio. She's a dancer, and she's very, very skinny. She's got square hips, and she's a gal. So that just goes against the grain of like people's rules about how females and males should look. Okay, inguinal ligament, bottom of the rib cage, navel. That's a very simplistic female torso. First rib, clavicles, wrap in, bottom of the butt through the legs, wrap around lines. The breast actually live on the wraparound lines. Top of the cone for the deltoid, cylindrical cone for the deltoid. Now we can get a little bit more into the trapezius. Have fun with that. You see how you can just start building? I'm trying to keep this simple for you. Bottom of the stomach, maybe there's a little fat deposit there. Who knows? Center of the breast. That one was fun. Do we have room to squeeze another one in? Nope. Let's slide it over. Once again, if you're just kind of catching this and you're saying to yourself, what is that card in the middle of the paper? It's just good when you're drawing against white paper to have something black, something gray, something white. So it adjusts the exposure a little bit. I mean, there's only so much that you can do with white paper. Whenever you're photographing something white, it tends to go a little bit more gray. If you make it too white, then the drawings are going to get bleached out. So I'm sacrificing white, and my head just hit the camera a little bit. I'm sacrificing a little bit of white paper so you can actually see the drawings, just because the natural tendency of the Col-Erase is very light, and I draw very light. So you combine those two things together. All right, so if you're looking to learn how to draw the figure in 60 minutes from your memory, from life, and from photo reference, come on down to drawingtutorialsonline.com and read all about it by clicking on the 60-minute figure drawing. Thank you.